Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, welcome to the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute. This is an iteration of our regular forum, which is globally visible, as you can see, and we have some selected friends here with us in person today. The specific topic of our discussion today will be about the blooming cooperation between Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan, which obviously fits into a much broader agenda that our institute has been working on for many years, the rise of regional cooperation in Central Asia and the Caucasus. Obviously, it's now 15 years since Professor Starr's book on the New Silk Roads was published, which talked in great detail about the prospects for economic, transport, and trade cooperation, not only within the region, but continentally between Europe and Asia, and how that, of course, benefits the region. The issues of trans-Caspian transit is something we've been raising attention to both in the past and in the present. I would say that what we're about to hear today, I think, relates very directly to the subject of two publications we issued over the summer, which, if they're not available here, should be made available. Yes. One was about the issue of agency and the important fact, very seldom or often neglected, that this part of the world is not a chessboard of great powers, but one where the local states have considerable agency to determine the future of their own affairs and of their region. The other paper we published on a very related topic was one about the rise of middle powers in Central Asia and the Caucasus. We have representatives of two of these emerging middle powers represented here today. Obviously, we see Kazakhstan as well as a third one. And I should say from the start that just because today we are speaking about cooperation between Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan very specifically, we do this because this has not been, there's not been a lot of attention raised to this particular bilateral cooperation. We know a lot about the cooperation between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, between Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. We can go into details about others, Azerbaijan and Georgia, for example, and so forth. This one is one piece of the puzzle, which obviously is not to the detriment of any other cooperation, whether it, by the way, be inside the region or with any outside power for that matter. But we see this as an important, should we say, evidence of changing times in the region. And we thought it would be wonderful to hear from the Washington representatives, ambassadors of these two countries, to hear about their perspectives of what this cooperation, why is it advancing now, what does it entail, what does it aim to do. But before we ask our ambassadors to take the floor, I would like to ask the chairman of our institute, Professor Starr, to provide some background remarks on the history of and context of this situation, please.
Thank you. Rena, maybe we can get copies of those papers that Svante put in here. This is a generational problem. For people whose adult life began after the collapse of the USSR, the idea of interaction across the Caspian is strange and unusual because very little existed. The Caspian was as wide as the Pacific Ocean in the minds of that generation of people because there was little contact and little interaction, little transport, little economic, commercial relations. There were very few. I remember in the very opening of the ADA University in Baku, when I taught a seminar, and everyone was surprised and delighted that there was an Uzbek there. How did he get here? So that's a generation thing. What I want to say before we hear these important presentations is there's a much longer, deeper interaction and interrelationship that we don't think about today. And I don't mean just in the Soviet period, when such interaction was tended to be mediated by Moscow. I mean direct interaction. Now, let's go back to the very early time. They're both Turkic peoples, and they both genetically descend from tribesmen who lived in what is now Western Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. They came out of the same pool, if you will. And during the Seljuk period, they both, of course, were up against the Mongols at a key point, which was not a happy experience for either. And then you had the Shayvanids in Azerbaijan, who existed as a regime under the roof of Timur. So this is pretty. These are significant relationships, notwithstanding the fact that that one is basically Sunni and the other is Shia as a national faith. Nonetheless, interestingly enough, they had intense interaction during the entire trading period. And if you go to Baku, there is outside of town, about 15 miles, as I recall, there are the ruins of a big Indian trading center. The guys coming from India, to get there, they went through Uzbekistan. And so here you have something that's been going on not just for hundreds of years, but thousands of years. In the late 19th century, both of them gained a sense of identity. Under the Jadids in Uzbekistan and in Azerbaijan, under the leadership of a whole team of people who basically not only were out to reclaim their history, but even the name. I mean, the term Azerbaijan, I don't think had any general usage until 1918, if I'm not mistaken. So this is about the same time that the Uzbeks started, the Jadids in Uzbekistan began talking the same way. So what I'm saying is that these two peoples, even though different versions of Islam, nonetheless, they've interacted intensely over this many centuries. And so what we're talking about this afternoon is not some innovation, it is a restoration. And that's very important. In both cases, in late Soviet times, you had leaders, in the case of Haidar Aliyev, in the case of Sharif Rashidov, who understood these relationships and played them very cleverly. And today, in both countries, you have mature but relatively younger leaders who are calm and very much object-oriented, and both of them very effective. So that's the context of what's taking place today. It's a restoration, it's not a total innovation.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Among you ambassadors, who would like to start?
My brother.
It's up to you. The alphabet is that's historically this way, you know. We cannot refuse the offer from our brothers. Thank you very much, my dear brother. It's not only personally brotherhood, but it's of course between our nations. And you two, scholars, enlighteners, I want to thank you for bringing us together, and I think there could be no better place than this institution, and with the knowledge and all the fundamentals you both know. Thank you so much. In fact, the topic is quite interesting. Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, how we're gonna bridge the Caspian. While we're speaking, in fact, it's being breached. Exactly while we're speaking, our leaders are in Kazakhstan.
Yes.
At the Organization of Turkic States Summit, and it's called Turk Time. This is quite interesting. And you mentioned, Svante Cornell mentioned here, the roots which unite us. And I think that's why our relations and bridging the Caspian and well beyond, I would say, is very natural in our case. Ethnic closeness, which Fred already described in a very unique way, which he likes doing, is key, definitely. And that has, of course, some subconscious reflection. At the same time, even the visible differences, as you mentioned, in terms of different versions of Islam, I don't think are differences in fact, because both in our brother Uzbekistan and in Azerbaijan, it's not about Shiism or Sunnism. It's about enlightened Islam and brotherhood and openness and friendship. And in fact, I should praise our brothers in Uzbekistan because I think they were champions not only for us, but for many in Muslim world, especially Samarkand, Bukhara, which played a tremendous role in terms of having Islam in a way we are worshiping today, both in Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and among our friends and neighbors around the Caspian Sea. Definitely, the natural way of Uzbek-Azerbaijan brotherhood and friendship has to do also with some practical things. I really liked how Dr. Cornell put it. So it's not a chessboard, and you put it in your papers as well. It's us defining our future. It's us defining our today. And it is so also because I believe this natural ingredient that we have always preferred ownership. And even during the Silk Road times, which Dr. Starr alluded a little bit to talking about Indians crossing Uzbekistan coming to Azerbaijan, it brought trade, it brought some commodities, it brought mentality, tradesman's mentality, which was very important because it's not only knowledge, it's not only culture which unites us, but it's also the way how we are tackling the issues and the way how we're engaging not only the region, but also bigger and larger powers. And that helps us to forge our future by ourselves. So the first ingredient which I wanted to put in, which defines your Azerbaijan-Uzbekistan relations in terms of the Caspian region, is this natural way of relations, the deep roots. The second ingredient, I think it's very important to mention, and it's also to your point, Dr. Starr, when you spoke about restoration of the relations. It's not only restoration, yes it is, but it's very fast-growing restoration. It's full speed. And again, I mentioned about our leaders together with leaders of other nations meeting today in Kazakhstan. But in last year, I just tried to make my own statistics. Basically, every 2 weeks, my president, my leader, is meeting one of the leaders of the region. Every 2 weeks. I'm not talking about ministers and other officials. My defense minister was just in Uzbekistan. So when we're talking about fast growing, it's also in which areas it's growing, and there is no limits. This is very important. Again, my defense minister was in Uzbekistan just maybe a week ago or 10 days ago, and we're talking about expanding our relations, having our plans for future in this sphere. We're talking about economy, our trade is flourishing. Yes, definitely, we are not happy with the current level of the trade, but if you look at the trend, you can see that, for example, last year there was more than 50% increase in trade between Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. On top of it, if you look how our businesses work together, and that I know also from my previous experience when I was in another brotherly nation as ambassador, Turkey. One of the first meetings I attended, it was business forum, and there were business people from both countries and officials. And I saw that business people try not to talk to each other too much. And then I saw, yes, that's an issue. If businesses don't talk, only officials, only governments cannot make trade or business effective. So with Uzbekistan right now, the latest figures I have, only in Uzbekistan we have around 300 companies with joint capital, so joint venture companies. In Azerbaijan, around 75. We're investing in each other quite actively. President of Uzbekistan, who again very frequently visiting his home in Azerbaijan, they together with my president, they inaugurated a school named after, also quite important, especially from your perspective, Dr. Starr, named after Uzbek, in the liberated Fizuli region of Azerbaijan. So who was Uzbek? My brother knows it much better, but not only was he a ruler, not only was he a warrior, he was astronomer, he was scientist, he was poet, just name it. It means our relations by opening the schools is to enlighten. And enlighten not only between Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan, but across the region. And there we have, again, talking about fast-growing relations, is different formats where we're having this cooperation. Our leaders meeting today in Kazakhstan within our organization of Turkic states. We have special relations within 5 Central Asian countries where my presence is invited always regularly. We're having economic cooperation organization. We're having, again, many regional formats, but on top of it, we're also very well coordinated within international organizations globally, be it United Nations or any other forum. And I would say that even our foreign policies today are very much coordinated and they're fine-tuned to the way how naturally our relations are built. I don't want to go into way too many details and throw too many statistics because then I will leave nothing to my brother. But I will leave to the third ingredient, which I want to put, which I would say defines our relations in the Caspian and beyond perspective, is that it has definitely global significance and impact. What we're doing in the region, and today I know that at the meetings, the issue of middle corridor was put in. If we're talking about middle corridor, it's not the trade route only between our Central Asian friends, brothers, strategic partners, Azerbaijan, Caucasus, and maybe Turkey. It has a global impact. It's between Asia and Europe. And here, I think, very important thing is the global impact of what we're doing, including middle corridor, including energy projects which we have in the Caspian Sea, is that it's for cooperation, not confrontation. This is very significant given all the negative trends we're having today in the world. Through trade, transportation, communications, energy, we want to bring global powers, those who are regional and also those who are not regional, to cooperate. And then we'll have probably a period of time when during Silk Roads, we had more stability in the world. That helps. When we are not talking about that, or when we allow others to come and dominate, regardless from where, that also doesn't help. So it's ownership, as we mentioned at the beginning. Whatever we're doing in the region, we're doing for ourselves, we're doing it by ourselves, and we're never doing that against anyone. This is critically important. It's always for our own interest. And then others, when they come in, or if they want to come in, they come to work with us and also to promote their own relations. And that's what can help region to be more integrated into the global affairs. So I'll stop here. to leave something for my class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Dr. Starr, Dr. Cornell. First, I'd like to say thank you for organizing this very important event. Because I believe that sharing the information about our relations with Brazil and Azerbaijan as an example of good cooperation, not only between two countries, but inter-regional cooperation is very important. So if you don't mind, today I will share with you some numbers which can show how Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan relationship is improving. The history of relations between our countries begins, as we mentioned, from ancient times. The people of Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan are united by similar national culture, tradition, and religion. Our brother ties have been tested by history for the centuries. Uzbek and Azerbaijan people live in the harmony, peace, and treated each other as brothers. You know, I can share with some very interesting thing that I used to be Uzbek ambassador 5 years in Pakistan, and my most dear friend was ambassador of Azerbaijan, and I came here in Washington. I'm 7 months here. I have another brother already, Ambassador Khazar, and we are even here. We coordinating our efforts. We are consulting. We every week meeting each other and supporting each other. I think it's very symbolic and it's very good. You know, the famous Uzbek poet and founder of Uzbek literature in 15th century, Alisher Navoiy, was deeply inspired by the work of the great Azerbaijani poet Nizami Ganjavi. I will share with you what Alisher Navoiy described in Nizami Ganjavi. He is a pearl of the crown of the kings. He is the crown of the truth and the keeper of kindness stream. He is the creator of meaningful work. The sky called this wonderful poet Nizami. You know how important Alisher Navoiy was. And when Alisher Navoiy mentioned about Nizami, and Nizami is very popular in Uzbekistan actually, and we have many streets, many schools named by the name of Nizami. Nowadays, these two independent countries are building their future on the solid foundation of the centuries-old history. Over the 7 years, Uzbek-Azerbaijan relations have entered in period of sustainable growth. Significant role on it playing the leaders of two countries, regularly meeting each other and set new guidelines for the strengthening the bilateral relationship. Between our presidents have been established sincere trust, complete mutual understanding, and most importantly, close friendship relationship between not only between presidents, between the families. Only this year, our presidents meet 6 times and they held 2 telephone conversations. The dynamic of Uzbek-Azerbaijan cooperation are mostly demonstrated emerging bilateral legal framework, the number of which has been over the past 7 years increased from 33 documents up to 150 agreements. Among them, most important document is Declaration of Deepening the Strategic Partnership signed in 2022. Moreover, additional key documents is agreement on establishment of super interstate council between two countries. This agreement introduces a unique form of interstate interaction, which allows for sustainable dialogue, increasing cooperation in all areas, as well as monitoring the progress of implementation of all agreements which reached in agreement between the two leaders. Our presidents have identified new drivers for the growth of strategic partnership in the areas of economic, industrial, transport, energy, security, where Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan will act together. One of the most important events was holding of this first international forum in 2023 in Tashkent, at which 11 documents were signed with the field of investment, regional cooperation, mining, agriculture, and grain making. Among them is agreement on creation of the joint investment fund for $500 million. It's the first time two countries decided to establish joint fund to support trade investment projects between two countries. President of Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan recently paid special visit to Fuzuli and held the opening ceremony of secondary school named after Mirza Uzbek, built by Uzbek side as a gift to the Azerbaijani people. We, considering this school like investment for future of Uzbek-Azerbaijan relationship. we're seeing that Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan has a bright future. We used to have a great history, but we believe that together we have great future too. So since of this year's bilateral trade turnover has increased more than 70%, amounting more than $150 million now. Over the 5 years, there are plans to increase its volume up to $1 billion. And I am sure that we have enough potential to do that, because I was the first deputy minister which was responsible for economic ties, and I know there's a lot of unlocked potential between the Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan. If in 2022 there were 178 companies with Azerbaijan participation operating in Uzbekistan, now there are more than 200. Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan are united in their views regarding transport logistic corridors, having similar geographical advantages in Central and South Caucasus region. Azerbaijan may become a gateway to Europe for Uzbekistan, and Uzbekistan a gateway to Asia for Azerbaijan. Today, we're actively using the capabilities of Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway, which ensure the access of Uzbek goods to the world market. We accept increased supply along this transport route, considering that its capacity will be increased up to 5 million tons per year by 2024. It seems promising for us to increase cargo transportation through Baku International Sea Trade Port. This year, Uzbekistan began work to opening its own terminal in the port of Aliyah. By the end of this year, our goal is to increase supplies through the ports of Azerbaijan and Georgia up to 1.5 million tons. We believe this could be one of the good international corridors to get access to other European markets. As you know, that Uzbekistan has a GSP plus regime with European Union, and this is a great market for us. And in this way, Azerbaijan could be a gateway for us to get European markets. Dear friends, Uzbekistan-Azerbaijan relations are many sides and based on the mutual interest and cooperation areas of truly benefit both countries. There are a lot of such points which interaction between Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. We observe how two leaders are becoming efforts to raise bilateral relations between our countries. As a result, Uzbek-Azerbaijan interaction is going into a genuine strategic partnership with broad opportunities. Such a strong cooperation is not only assist for development of bilateral dialogue between Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan, but also is key factor in strengthening ties between Central Asia and South Caucasus, creating solid basis for development of trade, investment, transport partnership within the two regions. But importantly, that is helping us to improve people-to-people relationship. And as my brother said, that we're having very strong cooperation, not only bilateral level, we're supporting each other within the framework of the different international formats and international organizations. And again, I would like to tell you that our views on regional issues and international politics, let's say for 90% of the matching, and we're supporting the regional policy of Azerbaijan and the internal reforms which are going on in Uzbekistan. We would like to say thank you, Azerbaijani government, they're supporting the ongoing large scale of reforms in Uzbekistan too. And now we start investing to each other. I think that it's just the beginning of our long-term friendship journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Dr. Starr, do you have any immediate follow-up?
Yeah. This is wonderful, of course. It's very positive development. It's an extraordinary development. And we shouldn't minimize the fact that it's taken a lot of work. There are a lot of people in both governments and in business communities in both sides who have devoted serious attention to this for the last several years. It didn't just happen this week. So it's an extremely important development, and as both of our ambassadors have indicated, you could really add Kazakhstan to this, and what Svante Cornell identified as a kind of upper tier of three countries within the region. Let me raise the question of the others, because the very success of these developments, of these three, raises the question of the fate of the others and their interaction. And I mean by that Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Georgia, and Armenia. And they're there. And the question is, are there steps being taken to integrate them deeper into these kinds of relationships? Or is the region disintegrating into an upper tier and a lower tier?
As we start.
Well,
Hot potato,
I,
potato isn't a native dish, but a hot potato, you understand.
let's, from our regional perspective, let's talk about pomegranate, pomegranate type, which is more unifying and we have in our, it's a season actually right now. Potato we can find anywhere all the time, but I prefer Peruvian rather than Iowa.
We are not feeling the decision.
Yeah, because of, I cannot talk right now, we're online about this issue, but I'll try to bring some Azerbaijan and Uzbek pomegranate, which I believe, since pomegranate has a lot of seeds inside, and they're almost all equal. So that's why I wouldn't distinguish between tiers. I really don't like about tiers. Maybe we can talk about sports in that way. And I'm very jealous of Uzbekistan today because I'm a big chess fan and the youngsters now take over everybody. And sometimes when I watch Sattarov playing, he's like Azerbaijani playing, and I was cheering for him. But indeed and seriously, I think we are doing very well with all our neighbors and friends. Again, most importantly, in Central Asia. Again, today's meeting involves countries of Central Asia. It's not only Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan. On top of it, we also have Turkey, we should not forget about. Even Hungary is involved. Viktor Orban is in Kazakhstan today too. And that shows mostly from economic perspective, it's not only Central Asia, it's not only Caucasus, it's also Europe and European Union involved. That's one thing. Secondly, if you look at, for example, Azerbaijan's relations with Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, you can see also a lot of increase in trade, cooperation, and everything. There is a lot of investment. Kyrgyzstan was actually a leader, maybe because we started very low, it went very high. Now there is 8-time increase in our trade with Kyrgyzstan, and there is a lot of investment. So we're working, and as I mentioned in my presentation, through different organizations, through different formats, which allow us, in one case, one is economic cooperation organization to have different players, one, and to be concentrated on economic issues. When we talk on different format, which is Organization of Turkic States, it's all encompassing. It has everything.
Name me one institutional structure that combines all the major top tier and second tier regional states.
Without tiers, it's United Nations, but not
exclusively. You can have them or all sorts of things. We have a C5+1 club. There's a Turkey club. There's a China club. There's a Russia club. There's a Middle East club. You don't have any club of your own.
Yeah, maybe we don't need clubs. That's very important because clubs sometimes bring exclusivity, tiers, which we don't prefer. It's not about size, we believe. It's not about economic might, we believe. We believe it's about equality. It's about brotherhood, as my brother mentioned here. And we don't want to look because we have history of several centuries when there was always tiers and something. We don't want it. So that's why.
But you're making it.
We're making it, but not only through formal way. We're working bilaterally and regionally also, and I want to bring here also our neighbors in the Caucasus, for example. We mentioned Georgia and Armenia, right? With Georgia, we have excellent cooperation. We have been strategic partners for a very long time. We'll continue this way. it helps also, for example, our Uzbek brothers, and Ambassador mentioned about it in terms of trade, mobility cars, just name it. Armenia at some point should be part of it if they decide, right? Why Armenia was not part, it was not by our decision, it was by their choice. They couldn't do that because we had our lands under occupation, even practically couldn't do that. Today, these obstacles are gone. So if Armenia decides and wants to be integrated, we can all cheer them and can integrate them, because we always believe the more integrated region is, the more, again, communication, transportation, energy, and other links we have. That will bring also how my friend put it in the end, more people to people contacts. And that will be more peace in the region, as for example, today between France and Germany, right? After World War II, starting with coal and steel, now they're moving forward. Yeah, there is European Union and other levels of cooperation. So therefore, again, just putting it short, I don't think we need fears. I don't think we need clubs. I think we need to be very creative. I think that we should not stop, and we should use all the mechanisms possible in order, first of all, to integrate ourselves, to have ownership, and then others will also be engaged.
So just to conclude,
Yes.
you're saying that Central Asia and the Caucasus is happy being the one world region without any organizational structures of its own.
I think we're very comfortable right now. I feel so. I don't know about my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not easy in making remarks after my brother. So the next time I have to start. So as you know that on 2016, the President Mirziyoyev came to power, and he said that, and his policy, and which implementing right now very successfully, we started good neighborhood and open door policy of Uzbekistan. It means that my president many times confirmed that for Uzbekistan, the first priority of our foreign policy is our neighbors. And good neighborhood policy, open door policy is now very successful implementing in the region. By the initiative of the President of Uzbekistan, the annual meeting of the Presidents of Central Asia was inaugurated. The first meeting was in my brother country, Kazakhstan. It was very successful. We already have already 6 or 7 meetings. Last one in Dushanbe, where President of Azerbaijan was invited. During the presidency of President Mirziyoyev, we was successful to solve all issues with our neighbors. We solved 100% border problem with the Kyrgyzstan and other neighbors. There are not any border issues. Again, after President Mirziyoyev came to power, we implemented no visa regime for Central Asian countries. I just give you some numbers. Till 2016, from region, we already had close to 200,000 tourists from the neighbors. Now, every year, we're receiving close to 2 million tourists only from the Central Asia. And I think that is very good, improving. And for us, improving the trade business in Central Asia, very important. And again, now we're seeing the mutual understanding of leaders, not only of the Central Asia, but people of Central Asia to work together to be as a one regions, because we have a common interest, we have a common issues. And that's why now the world, including the United States, that recognize Uzbekistan, the Central Asia as a region. That's why we have a C+1. So I think that we should work between Central Asian countries. At the same time, I believe that Central Asia open for cooperation for everyone. Central Asia could be land of the cooperation. We don't want to have, let's say, geopolitical competition with a result of zero results. And Central Asia could be bridge to which could connect Central Asia and the Caucasus, Central Asia and South Asia. So that's why I think that right now we're having very good cooperation between the Central Asian countries. We have a mechanism of cooperation. More important, maybe we're enjoying the mutual trust between leaders of Central Asia and between the nations. And I would like to say that now we're enjoying the very good cooperation with Azerbaijan. Actually, 2 leaders of Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan, as you rightly mentioned, that they restored the historical justice and the wishes of the two nations. And we will work together and we will rise together.
Thank you. Anyone in the room has a question or a comment? Reina, do we have anything online? Yes, please. Please identify yourself.
Yeah, I'm Johan from the Norwegian Embassy. So I would like to return back to the middle corridor. Could you say a bit more about how the recent advances in your relationship is going to help the development of the middle corridor? You mentioned, the 5 million benchmark by 2025. What's the medium-term perspectives, and what concretely are you doing to remove the choke points on the middle corridor? And then if I could add secondly, how are the major powers, I'm thinking principally about Turkey, China, and Russia, engaging with you on the development in the middle corridor?
You want to start
Yeah.
first, right?
So as you know that there is a two double landlocked countries in the world. One of them is Uzbekistan. Now, because of the reforms of President of Uzbekistan, Uzbek economy very dynamically rising. Because we work back to one of the most dynamically improving country in the region. And our export potential is increasing very dynamically, and we needed access to the different markets. And it means that we need the different routes to get access to the different markets. So that's why now we're working on the different projects, not only military corridor. We are interested about that. As you know, that the first initiative, which initiated by the friend of Uzbekistan, was building the railways through Afghanistan to Port Karachi in Pakistan, which will have only like 700 kilometer lengths. That very soon we will inaugurate it. We will start working together. Hopefully, very soon we'll integrate the Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, China railways, where Azerbaijan showing interest to be part of it. That will be great in that. And so for us, diversification of the trade route is very important. And then again, that the military corridor is one of them. We will be happy to work together. And this is, first of all, it's have only economic agenda. Demanding that Uzbek economy growing, we have already I mentioned that we have GSP plus regime as a European Union, which means that we can export the European market more than 6,000 type of products without any taxation. This is a very good, so it's very good opportunity for us. So that's why we are working on it, and we will after that we will invest to the different to improving the. We will improve the different transport corridors, and hopefully, again, we're still working on Afghanistan railways too. Feasibility studies already finished, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this project too.
Yeah, that's a good question. What we're doing or should do, because at the end of the day, when I mentioned about businesses, from my previous experience, one thing is when governments tell you everything is good. Another thing is when businesses come. And I remember when I had one of the presentations when I was in Izmir, a wonderful city in Turkey, and I was giving brilliant pictures. I don't want to undermine myself, but still, I'm not a business person. One business person who was in cargo transportation business, he said, "Ambassador, that's wonderful, but tell me how much it costs," right? And that was a good question, and it's very practical. So therefore, we need to work to make it more attractive, of course, for businesses, for bigger countries, you mentioned, to avoid choke points, as you alluded to. And that's what we're exactly doing. My President Aliyev, mentioned during his recent speech that we are increasing, and soon it will be finalized, the capacity of Alat seaport, which is the largest seaport right now on the Caspian Sea, from 15 to 25 million tons. So, and he specifically mentioned that we're doing it for our brothers in the Central Asia, including Uzbekistan, of course, and others. That's one. Two, Baku-Tbilisi cars, 5 million, yes, the capacity is 1 million, now we're increasing it to 5 million, that's second one. So infrastructure wise, we're already taking steps and they're about to be finalized. Secondly, of course, unification or making easy, just going through one country to another, customs, just name it. And we're working very extensively on that. There are a lot of meetings, and not only on the top or at officials level, there are a lot of meetings on the technical level, believe me, on a daily basis, and through different formats in order to ease the passage of the goods through, yeah, we can call middle corridor or something else, just going through the Caspian Sea. Let me put it this way. That's also happening. Does it attract others? It does, and big time. Of course, Turkey is a big part of it, right? Russia is also interested. Quite interestingly, when Baku-Tbilisi cars has been under construction, I remember many were, even in Russia, was speaking like, oh, Baku-Tbilisi cars, it will be kind of alternative. Today, Russia is very much interested in using Baku-Tbilisi cars, not only because Russia wants to do it from a political perspective. No, it's business driven, because every country needs multiplicity. Diversification is good in everything. In Norway, you know it very well. We worked very closely with you. We really appreciate our cooperation on energy field, for example. We learned a lot from you. Of course, you hailed from Kobustan as Vikings. You went from Azerbaijan. We know that, but we also learned from you in terms of how efficiently, how to have efficient energy policies, diversification. Good example of your pension fund, which we called our oil fund, and many other things. But when we're discussing in 90s with you, we're all talking about what? Diversification of energy routes, which helps us today. Yes. And here also, it's about diversification. So of course, it's also important and good for Russia. Yes, it's good for Turkey. For China, it's good. For United States, it's positive. European Union, name it. And that's exactly not only what our region needs, that's what the world needs. It needs all the powers be together on something positive, because otherwise we'll be in a mess, and we're in a mess. I'm sorry to say, however undiplomatic it might sound.
Anyone else? You mentioned the defense ministerial visit, and obviously this is a time when we are concerned about security, internal security, transnational, external. Could you dwell a little more into the security potential? What is it specifically that you are exchanging, building in terms of a security relationship?
Yeah.
You see? No, it's visible why he's more skilled diplomat, right? But I think it's quite obvious that it's not about specificity of technical armament cooperation. In every defense cooperation, and my background is Paul Mill, is about trust. If you don't have trust, whatever cooperation you have might go astray at some point. You might have technical cooperation, and we have a lot of examples in the world when even allies at some point decide not to provide something. I don't want to name, and your country, I mean, United States, experienced that with some of its allies and still experiencing. It's about trust. So when you have trust in your defense cooperation, then everything else builds up really fast and it becomes more sustainable. So we have this trust, one. Two, you should be structured also. And we are structured. So I mentioned the visit of my defense minister. What they signed the plan of the cooperation. If you don't have a plan, it can be a little bit chaotic. We don't want to have that. So we have a plan. So we'll have this on that exercises. So we conducted it's very much about interoperability. And we're trying to make our troops as interoperable as possible. And a couple of months ago, we had big military exercises among our troops, and that helps us to be more interoperable and to see the areas where we need to do more. And the same we're doing it also with other countries of the region. With Kazakhstan, we had excellent cooperation in this field as well, and we're doing with others, and we'll probably continue doing that. But sometimes we're doing it also in a combined way. There were a couple of exercises when, for example, Uzbek, Kazakh, Azerbaijani, and Turkish troops were training together and having exercises. Again, they're not intended, never they will be intended against anybody else. They are to have us more interoperable and capable to tackle the challenges we face and will definitely face in the future.
Same thing. Actually, cooperation in this field of security is important for us. I mean, for both countries. We're having very good military and technical cooperation. We're exchanging the training programs, and we are closely working on regional security issues, combating terrorism, transnational threats, cybersecurity, and we are sharing the information about we have a common interest, but at the same time, we have a common threats and challenges. So we're working together with Azerbaijan and again, Kazakhstan and our other brothers to make sure that we can have some common ground to be ready for emerging new threats, let's say old threats too. And that is helping us to not only technical cooperation, and very important that we're having sometimes joint scientific studies on regional issues, regional security issues, and that is very important. So I think that is one of the important and needed part of our bilateral cooperation, and we will do more.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes left. Dr. Starr, would you like to take us away with a few final thoughts?
That's a real challenge. This is very heady stuff we're discussing here. These are shifts of geological nature that are taking place, and they really can have a vast impact on the future. I think the intentions of all involved are very clear, and you've expressed them very eloquently and with conviction, and that's part of the story, and they aren't the only two who would do so. I can assure you there are many people in both countries who would sing in exactly the same key. And let it be said, there are people in all their neighboring countries who welcome these developments for the very reasons that our two distinguished ambassadors have indicated. That said, there remain two big issues. I think one is the question of institutionalization. And both of our ambassadors have very deftly indicated the areas where institutional coordination is taking place on a binational basis. And in some cases, they are also meshed with third party within the region cooperation and coordination. So that's all very, very positive, and you can say, well, it's all happening. It's just happening very deftly and very slowly. I think, though, the question has to be asked. It's now 2023. That's more than, it's almost a generation and a half since the collapse of the USSR. Why has it taken so long? What's going on? Is it because these are new states and new states don't like to cooperate? That's true. The United States was, we were totally preoccupied with ourselves for the first generation after the revolutions. That changed in time, of course. And so to some extent, I think the time gap is totally normal and understandable. On the other hand, in this case, it continues in the present in the very, very judicious and careful way in which both of these countries and the other countries of the region mention any institutional structures. And so I think there's a taboo about doing so, an unacknowledged taboo. And it may well be a heritage of a very interesting experience that all countries of the region and east of the Caspian, Azerbaijan wasn't involved with it, but Kazakhstan was, and Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, so on. And that is the Central Asia Economic Union of the 1990s. You will not even find this on Wikipedia. Who would be interested in expunging this from Wikipedia? This was a very interesting operation. It was very intensive. It involves security too. Very actively involves security in every other area. That organization was such a success that the then president of the Russian Republic asked to become an observer. And there was no basis for denying such a request, certainly no objection from elsewhere, and so that was done. 2 years later, the same president asked for the Russian Republic to become a member, and there was no way of resisting this, so he became a member of the Central Asia Economic Union. And then a couple of years later, the Central Asia Economic Union was closed down, and in its place was created the Eurasian Economic Union. Now there are a lot of diplomats around who know this history, lived this history, and that this, I suspect, gives them a caution, a desire to proceed very carefully and to go under the radar, as in fact, both of our speakers have indicated. Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan, and also Kazakhstan, all of them have done magnificent, very, very deftly. But to think that this is all taking place in a vacuum globally, and that no one else everyone wishes everyone well, is not. Would that the world were like that. It's not quite like that. And I think we outside, whether not just neighbors in the region, but outsiders in Europe, Asia, America, have to appreciate the very complex, unstated realities that the countries of Central Asia and the Caucasus are dealing with as they approach these issues. We've had a very eloquent pair of presentations today. No surprise, because these are real top professionals as diplomats. But we've also, I think, been challenged to understand not just what is happening, but what isn't happening, why, and how progress moving forward will take place. What are the actual constraints that may not be stated but are real? And is there a role for the West, for the East, in addressing that issue? Can Europe, can America, can Asia, can India, which hasn't even been mentioned today? It's a key, well, it was implied by your statement about the railroad through Afghanistan. But this could be another transformative route. These are very delicate issues to discuss. And I think we should be grateful to the two of you and to your government for encouraging this meeting to take place. I hope we can extend it now to other countries in the region and to all the countries that have been mentioned within the region. And then maybe at a later stage, consider how the rest of the world reacts to this. To what extent is it welcoming? To what extent is it viewing with caution? And to what extent is it viewing such developments with suspicion or even concern? This is a big agenda. Your wonderful presentations inspire us to keep moving in this direction,
And so we will do, both in written form and in the next iteration of this forum meeting very soon. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and